So in our van, we have 6 upper cabinets. What we're going to be doing today is building doors for all these guys. What we're doing is called a shaker door. This is what a shaker door looks like. You have your stiles, which go up and down. You have your rails, which slot into them. And you have a centerpiece.
So we just ran all of our stiles and rails through the router, and we got a nice little router piece. So now we're gonna take this edge and run them through the router again so that we can piece them all together with this piece. And Jake's over here edge banding. So he's slicing pieces of edge band in half and then putting them on either side. And also routing is way better when you actually hook up the shop vac.
Yes. Pro tip. This place was covered in dust, it was awful.
We got a nice little production line going here. So we just cut all of the pieces, so now we have these little grooves which can go in this part, the hole. Jake's putting them together. So that's what it looks like when it's all together. So you see there's a slight little angle on the inside. And so we're putting edge banding along here.
We're gonna sand it and paint it and clean it up. It's pretty rough still.
And then we'll put some like wood filler in the edges here. And it will have the handmade touch, but it will look beautiful.
Needs the sand as well. We have the first 3 doors all cut up. The middle pieces are sanded, and the rails and stiles are edge banded. So we're gonna try putting these guys together. I think we're gonna glue this center panel in. Some people let it float, but since we're in a van, I don't think the vibration will be good for it. So we'll see how it works. So we got the first 2 clamped up. I put tape in the middle to help with some of the wood glue. So any wood glue that went on it, we can just peel off afterwards. We're gonna let these clamp, then we're gonna sand them, wood filler them, sand them again, and then these 2 are done.
Good morning, everyone. Back to working on the cabinet doors today. Jake got them all assembled and he got them all wood filled. So this morning I'm going to sand all of the wood filler and then edge band all of the edges. That's everything all sanded now. Next up, I'm going to do some edge banding around the outer edges of the doors. What I'm going to try and do is do one continuous band around the entire door, and I'll make it end at the top, so hopefully we won't see it, and then I'll wood filler the gap. So let's see how this works. This is the edge banding that we're using. It's natural birch and it matches the wood that we've used to build the doors. We used the same stuff on our cabinet boxes and it worked really well. So we've been using it on the edges of the plywood. And if you've never worked with edge banding, what you do is use the iron, you stick it on, and then you can use a utility knife and cut the excesses off, and then I just go around with a hand sander and neaten up, and it works really nicely to give a nice finish to the plywood edges. Here's a stack that I've got going so far. It's working really well so far. So these are all done now. Next up I'm going to go around and neaten up any parts that I've missed with the sanding. And then I'll tack cloth and then I'm going to start painting. So because we have the rail and style type shaker doors, there's lots of gaps in between the joints. So I've gone through and we've wood fillered all of these joints here so that we can't see the wood filler when we're all done. I've been sanding it down so you can kind of see a little bit of the wood filler, but if you feel it, it's very smooth here. And over here, this is one that I primed yesterday where I did the same thing. And you really can't see the join very well. And this is just with primer on it. So once we go and give it the layers of paint, you won't see it. Whereas if you look at the back of some of these, like this one here, we didn't put any wood filler in it, so you can see that join. And that's what it's gonna look like when you have the finished paint on them. It's definitely a slow process, but taking the time now will make sure that they look really good when they're done. So, baby steps. Finally ready to start applying the primer. I've propped up our board on little blocks and I use this tack cloth to get rid of all of the dust from sanding on the board. I will be applying the paint with this little sponge to get into all of the little grooves, and then I've got a foam roller over there. This is the paint that we're using. This is the primer. Everything is primed now, and next up I'm going to sand these to 220 grit to get them ready for painting. So all of our doors have been primed and have one coat of the final paint on them. This is all the backs that you're looking at. But we're going to drill all of the holes before we do our final coat of paint, just in case we split any of the wood. Then we can sand and fill everything in and give it the last coat of paint to make it all nice. How does that sound, Finley? So Finley and I are marking out all of the holes that we're going to drill for installing our overhead hinges. So we're going with the European style full overlay frameless. Comes with instructions. So we're just marking out where we're supposed to drill all the holes so that we can drill them to install this part, and then this will go into the actual cabinet box. So I've marked all of the upper head cabinets. And now Finley and I are going to start drilling holes in our cabinet doors. Perfect. Just got to do the other side now. And you need to watch your measurement because you're very close to the edge when you use these.
Most cabinet hardware needs a specific hole size, and so we bought a special bit for it. So this is the bit we bought. It came with a little jig that tells us where to put our holes, and we just use it. It takes off quite a bit of material, but it cuts the hole the right size for our hardware.
So now all the holes are drilled on the upper cabinets. I will give them all their final coat of paint, and then we can install them.
So to put these in, you set this to that way, so a square on the side, and put tape so you don't mark the top. That way you'll make sure you're square and not cocked. Okay. Holes. Hold it square. Make sure your drill's low. So the reason we bought this hardware is it's soft close and it has three-way adjustment. So you can move it forward and back, up and down, and side to side using these 3 screws. And that gives us a lot more adjustment to make sure our cabinet doors are exactly where we want them. But because we're lining these up, we're taking the spacing from the door, scrubbing it onto the cabinet, and then drilling the holes. We need to make sure these are lined up. And before we do that, we have to make sure these are in the middle of their adjustment. Otherwise, they could be on either extreme and leave us with no adjustment at all. So first thing to do, make sure these are in the middle of their adjustment, and then we'll install them. So we're going to start by installing the two end ones first, and then we're going to do the middle. The reason for that is we can line up the end ones properly so that we don't get all the way down, realize it's a tolerance stack and that it's not going to fit on the end. We can make the two that have critical spots perfect and then just fit the other two in between. So with these hinges, the backs come off if you click this. So now install this piece.
Successfully getting the first door in, so now we're going to install all of the hardware for the rest of the doors, and we'll install them and then we will do the gas shocks.
This is why we bought adjustable hardware.
The last door.
Last door.
So we've moved on to installing the gas shocks. Because we used 1/2-inch wood for the, what are those called, like the upper verticals, the screws for our gas shocks would poke through on either end. So we bought rubber to use as a little spacer here. And then we're installing them both in the same spot on either side, but there's 3 screws. So we're just alternating the direction of the screw. So the one that Jake is working on right now, the center screw will be on the bottom. So then you won't see any if they do stick through.
Yeah, perfect.
Nice work! That was all you.
No, this was a team effort. I just eyeballed stuff and we did the rest kind of happened.
Those look so good! They're in! We got the gas shocks on these two done this evening, and tomorrow we'll do these 4.
Looking awesome. Let's call it for the night and go eat some pizza.
Yeah, pizza night. Good night.